everyone. I'm going to start out with a personal story today about how I discovered one of the techniques that I'm going to be talking about later on in the show, called self-talk. As I mentioned in my other shows, I went through a lot of trauma and hardships growing up, and that was still really unraveling and healing through my 20s. And while I was in grad school, I learned about cognitive behavioral therapy, and we were given this assignment where we had to do cognitive behavioral therapy on ourselves and write this really extensive paper about it. And this is kind of a new idea to me. It's like I could do therapy on myself. And so I kind of took it a step further and realized this amazing technique that you could do called self-talk. And really what had happened, I'm going to go a little bit more personal because I do think that a lot of other people are struggling with similar things, and we kind of learn through each other's stories, so bear with me. I found that I had this fear of abandonment for reasons of my past, and also a fear of engulfment, which meant I was afraid of getting sucked in and engulfed with someone. So it became very hard to have intimate and personal relationships because I kept oscillating between fear of abandonment and fear of engulfment. So please never leave me. No, never, I never want to see you again. So, that's not a fun place to be in for anybody. So during that, I was having a really hard time, and I was alone in my bathroom, really crying, just feeling really triggered and feeling a lot of PTSD symptoms. And in that moment, something kind of clicked, and I realized, because of my big cognitive behavioral therapy course and what I'd been learning, that I could really be the adult, the caring adult and therapist that I needed for myself, because no one else could do that for me because I kept oscillating between those two, fear of abandonment and fear of engulfment. I realized I really needed, it had to come from me. It had to come from inside. Oh. Thank you for listening. I'm Jessica Disbrow, licensed social worker and registered psychotherapist in the state of Colorado. I'm also the founder and primary therapist of Higher Consciousness Healing. We're a private practice in Lakewood, Colorado that offers holistic psychotherapy services to youth and adults. For more information about our practice, please visit us at www.higherconsciousnesshealing.org. And you're now watching our live video blog, which airs every Saturday at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, except when I'm away, you're watching a pre-recorded show, which will air Saturday at 10 a.m., but I'm recording it before that. I'm actually going away for the weekend, and I meant to mention it on my last week's show, and it slipped my mind, so I'm sorry to miss you all. I will be back next week, and then I'll be away, and then I'll be back, and then I think I'm going to be away again, but I'll be here through the fall. Everybody has their own schedules, especially through the summer, so bear with me. All right, well, today's episode, rewiring your brain for positivity and love. First, I want to talk a little bit about the brain and how it's working. Basically, it's a neural network, and what fires together wires together. So the more an experience happens, or the more you think a thought, the more those neurons really wire together and really solidify. And if you don't do some of those things, there's what's called neural pruning. When you're sleeping, your brain will actually go and kind of prune away the things you no longer need. It's pretty crazy. So if we're not present with ourselves and we're not being aware of what our issues are, we can kind of get into this place of reactionary robot, where we're kind of just playing out the patterns of our brain unconsciously, and we're not really awake and we're not really alive in the ways that we could be. And why this is so important, rewiring our brain, is because we have a tendency towards fear, negativity, and doubt. Just, because of survival, it makes it a lot easier to survive when we're operating from a fear-based place, from a negative place. And, that's kind of just our default. So let's rewire that. Another thing that makes it challenging is the people who have had trauma and dysfunction in their lives. It's just going to make this stuff even more harder, even more negative, more extreme emotions, PTSD symptoms, all that jazz. And really what happens when we start doing this rewiring work is we get better. We get more in control of our emotions, our thoughts, our behaviors, and we stop reacting so much and feeling triggered so much. So it's really amazing, because this is kind of the foundation of how we can make serious change. And you'll feel so much better. Now, I want to talk about core dysfunctional beliefs for a minute. Because as we're doing this work and we're listening to that voice inside our head, you might realize that at the core, there's these dysfunctional beliefs. One that I just see the most common across the board is this belief that I am not enough. Or I am not, fill in the blank, enough. I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not enough. And this affects all aspects of your life, because if that's where you're operating from, if that's your core dysfunctional belief, it's going to bleed over into everything else. And you're not even going to be aware of it, necessarily. So hopefully now you're a little bit more aware. I think just talking about it and identifying what some of these are just really helpful awareness building techniques. So, number 2, I am not worthy or deserving. That's another one that just plays up so much. And then the third one, others' needs are more important than mine. And the reason why a lot of us have these core dysfunctional beliefs is because of our experiences as children. We're taught our needs aren't important. We're taught the adults are, in charge, and things just don't really work out the best ways for us in a lot of cases. But those are just our experiences that are imprinting our brain and giving us a certain program that we're operating from. And that's all it is. So we don't need to, feel bad about the program that's operating and feel bad about beating ourselves up in our head. It's really not our fault. It's really, really not. So everyone has different but kind of similar core dysfunctional beliefs, and it's really important to do some self-work and self-awareness building to discover your own. Listen to that voice inside your head, start paying attention, and really see what those patterns are. All right, so now that we've looked at why this is important and some of the core dysfunctional beliefs, I want to talk about what to do about it. So, how do we rewire our brain? So, the first technique I want to talk about is self-talk. As I mentioned at the intro, it's an amazing tool. It's really the most beneficial, I think, that I've ever used on myself, because it really is something that you can do anytime, any place, anywhere, and it is literally rewiring your brains with new positive thoughts. Saying compliments to yourself, self-talk, right? You're talking to yourself, you're looking at yourself in the mirror, you're getting ready for work, you say, you look beautiful today. In the mirror, really. Give yourself lots of compliments, especially ones that you mean, because that's really like where the good stuff is. Because as we're saying these things, we really want to feel that good positive energy, because it's not just about saying it, it's about feeling it and then believing it. And you might feel like doubtful at first, like, well, I'm giving myself these compliments and I don't really believe them. Or I'm doing some of the other affirmation work, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, but it's really hard for me. It's all good, man. Just take it one moment at a time and it will work out. So next, under self-talk, is giving yourself validation. This is especially key when we don't feel validated by others. And I'm going to tell you, trust me, everything you feel is valid. Everything you think is valid, all of that. You are valid. You're having a valid experience. No one should ever invalidate your experience. It's yours and you get to have it. I just want to be really clear on that. So Giving ourselves validation when we're missing that from other people is huge, because then we're not waiting for those people to give it to us, and we're giving it to ourselves, and we find a new sense of liberation and empowerment by doing that work. So every time you start to feel like my boss isn't recognizing me, my partner didn't notice I did the dishes, whatever the case may be, recognize it in yourself. You say, man, I did a great job. Because we really shouldn't be looking for validation from other people. It's just not really a helpful road to go down. It's nice, but really that validation should come from within. It's much more powerful that way. Right. And the last piece on self-talk, and this is really key, is redirecting your thoughts from negative to positive with love and kindness. Now, I know a lot of gurus and meditation people say to just watch your thoughts and just watch them, like water going down a stream, and just not be attached to them at all. And that's really great practice. However, I think a lot of those people don't realize that how our brain works is that we actually have the power to redirect that thought, instead of having it just keep repeating over and over again, slowly losing power, but instead redirecting with love and kindness from something negative to something positive will actually get us there faster. It's a shortcut. So if you want a shortcut, definitely use it, and watch out for those patterns. So let's say the negative pattern is, I'm not deserving, and you catch yourself not feeling deserving of a promotion that you really want. Well, then you recognize that that's what it is, recognize that that's the pattern, and say, I do deserve that promotion. I've worked hard, I've earned my keep here, I deserve it. It's really that easy. Well, you'll have a lot of resistance, which I have talked about. It's hard to deal with our problems sometimes, basically. I'm not going to get into it more than that, but, just keep mustering the courage and moving forward and taking every moment by moment. All right, I digress. Number 2 for techniques is daily affirmations. Fake it until you make it. Really, really. There's lots of different affirmations that you can come up with by yourself. There's lots of lists online that you can check out of different affirmations. And some of them you might have a really hard time believing when you're saying them. And that's okay. I really do think that that's part of the work, is sitting with the uncomfortable feelings of looking in the mirror at yourself eye to eye and saying, I love myself. Those first I love myself in the mirror can be really challenging for some people, and that's okay. It's going to get better. It definitely gets easier. And I really would recommend using a mirror because it's triggering different parts of our brain. Using a mirror, speaking out loud, these are really good reinforcers for our brain processing to rewire a little bit faster than maybe just doing it in your head. Doing it in your head is great, but if you can have that solid mirror time once a day, that would be really perfect. YouTube has so many people who do guided affirmations. So they say an affirmation, and there's a pause, and you say it. And it's really easy. They have 20, 30-minute ones. Find one that resonates with you and feels good, and do that once a day. And also, if you want, I find this one a little hard personally, but just throwing it out there, they do have YouTubes that are 8-9 hours long that are affirmations to listen to while you're asleep. So you can check that out too. Number 3 is hypnosis. And you can either do hypnosis work with someone else, or you can do some self-hypnosis work, which if you guys are meditators, self-hypnosis might be good for you. You can look up some information online. And the last one is meditation. So basically, meditation, you can go into a meditative state and think about one of these patterns that has been coming up for you. I'm not enough. So you kind of go into a meditative state and you hold that idea, I'm not enough, and then you dismantle it. So you consciously think of reasons why that's not true. And the biggest reason why a lot of these aren't true is because you are always deserving of unconditional love and kindness. Always. From yourself, from other people. It really doesn't matter what you've done, what you've said. It just doesn't. The past is in the past, and we have to move forward. So, please remember, you're always deserving of unconditional love. All right. Those are the 4 techniques: self-talk, daily affirmations, hypnosis, and meditation. I really recommend that if this sounds like something that you want to start trying, to just try it 1 minute a day. Just 1 minute a day. At the same time, same place preferably, to try and build that habit, just 1 minute of any of these techniques. Because then it doesn't really take a whole lot of time, and you'll, after the first week or two, start to see the benefit of doing it just 1 minute a day, and you might want to do it more and more and find what really works for you. That's my recommendation. All right, next week we're going to be talking about the stages of change, which is just one of my favorite topics to talk about with clients, with people in my life, everybody, because the stages of change is something really important, and it's something that not a lot of people understand when they're trying to make changes and they're wondering, why is this so hard? So I've got some shortcuts next week. Also, before I go, I have 2 quick announcements. If you did like today's episode, I'd really recommend that you go back and watch. We have 2 self-love episodes. Those are really great if you want to build in some of that self-love and self-care. I'd really recommend checking those out, especially if you're finding that negative voice inside your head is a little too much and you're finding it's really hard to focus, or it's hard to do 1 minute a day because you're so scattered. Go back to the self-love. It'll be good for you. Just one quick announcement. I had announced that I have a spiritual support group for millennials coming up. It's kind of a community building and educational group that's going to be happening once a month. And it's summer, and I want to do all the things, and I can't do all the things. So that's going to be pushed back until September, because I'm traveling quite a bit in August, and I think that will probably be good for everybody. So if you want more information about that, please feel free to reach out. My contact information is on our website at www.higherconsciousnesshealing.org. And we also have that 12-week group therapy also for millennials, ages 15 to 35. That will be coming up as well in the fall. All right. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Take care.